Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer who specializes in book adaptations for film and television, and the topic of today's video is my weekly update ending May 5th, 2024. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Again, my name is Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. Here's my weekly update on some of the books that I read, some of the books I'm planning to read the following week, kind of what's been going on in my life and in my music career as well. I'm going to kind of launch right into it here because we have a kind of a busy weekly update this segment. But I read and I finished this behemoth right here, Under the Dome by Stephen King. Talked about this book a little bit in a previous weekly update. I'm linking it up here for you. And so I kind of go a little bit more in depth, but I kind of want to just say a few words now that I've had a few days to kind of let this book marinate for me. And it is easily a top 10 Stephen King work. I think what he does really well is fleshing out characters you never knew that you wanted to know more about. You know, the lady at a diner, that kind of a character that you wouldn't normally think too much about in a regular plot-driven narrative. You want to know everything about this lady, and this particular book is no exception because he builds out this whole town of Chester's Mill and how they are forced to go through the supernatural experience of having a dome that separates them, cuts them off from the rest of the world. And I really like the supernatural elements about this book, and it does kind of make you question life a little bit. It asks the big questions, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm always a fan of books that do that. However, what was more compelling, I think, is the fact that he's able to build out a town full of dozens of characters, make you care about and identify with each single one, and make them feel like they're a prominent character in this telling of the story. And you realize as you read the story, it is really about them all. It's not about a singular POV or a singular character in the book. And I think that's what makes it so compelling. And I think it's also an analysis of what people do to each other. When something like this happens, it forces a society to react to the situation. And you start to realize the delicate construct of a society and what defines, civilized society, if you want to call it that, and how quickly those morals can erode over time if something like this was to happen. So, incredible book. I will say, personally, for me, I've always had a little bit of a problem with the way Stephen King sticks his landings. I think they are very hit or miss. I think the last, say, 20 pages of this felt like a little bit of a miss to me. Not quite what I would have liked, but I almost didn't care at that point because the way he had built out this world and the characters made it a 10 out of 10. So it almost felt inconsequential, the last like 10, 20 pages to me. I think it was well paced throughout. And this is over 1,000 pages long, right? So, any book like that is usually going to drag in the middle, but I never felt like that with this book. That's no small feat on its own. So enough about that. I just wanted to kind of let you know what my thoughts were now that I had some time to sit away from the book and kind of think about what it really means to me. So this is going to be a new entry on my top 10 list, I think. And I'll probably be doing some updates on top 10 lists, I think, as I go forward, because, that's the beauty of reading, right, is you find new discoveries and you change your opinions on things. And sometimes the opinion that you have as a gut reaction is either further developed and you have more to say about it, or you feel differently about it later on. So I'm excited to kind of be able to talk to you more about those as things go forward. But that's Under the Dome by Stephen King. You got to read it. Got to check it out. So the next book I wanted to talk about is kind of an interesting one. I had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this particular series, partially because it's just such a sprawling epic, and there's so many characters, so many continents. It takes place over the span of thousands and thousands of years. And so, it's a little bit daunting. It's often referred to as if like The Wheel of Time, which is a 15-book series, right, was considered like, kind of a gateway into longer fantasy series. This is kind of like one of those top of the mountain type of series in terms of difficulty. And that is none other than Malazan or Malazan, Book of the Fallen. I still love Malazan as a pronunciation, but I realize it's Malazan, so for the sake of this video, I'm covering both bases. But this is a little bit of a complicated relationship I have with this particular book. This is the first book called Gardens of the Moon. I first read it, actually, in 2020. Or maybe it might have been 2021, which was when Mike's Book Reviews did a read-along for the series. And, I read maybe the first 2.5 books. And I just felt like I didn't know what was going on. I felt like I was put right in the middle of this thing, in the middle of this world that was very vast, and I was trying to figure things out. And I know that's par for the course with the series. I think this is a series that makes you kind of work for it a little bit to find the treasure trove that's buried underneath. But I wasn't quite ready for it at the time. To be honest, that was 3 years ago now, right? So I was much more of a newbie to the fantasy genre. I just read through the Wheel of Time series, and that was about it. Like, I'd read Harry Potter when I was younger, and that was the extent of my fantasy experience. So I wasn't quite ready for this, I think. I've been but it stuck with me. I've been thinking about restarting this, and I thought, I'll save it for next year because I have other series I want to get into. But of course, as any booktuber or any book fan could attest to the fact that we all suffer from a case of FOMO, right? We're always kind of like, we're reading a book and we're already thinking about the next one. So this has been happening to me a lot with this series. I have the whole 10-book series sitting on my shelf in the living room. So I walk by it every day, and I'm always looking at it, and I'm always wanting to dive in. So I figured, okay, let me try to reread this, see if I can look at it from a different lens. And I'm so happy I did, because I'm about 100 pages into this. I don't have a bookmark in this because I like living on the edge. So, about 100 pages into this, about a sixth of the way through. This is about 656 pages, some change. And I've found it to be fantastic. Now, I don't remember very much of this book, honestly. It just felt like a whirlwind that passed me by. And so I read through it, but I don't, I recall some of the events that took place at the very beginning. That was about it. A lot of it felt new to me, as if I was reading for the first time. It's kind of a weird situation to be in, where you're suddenly understanding it from a completely different vantage point than you were before, but now you also have read it before. So it's weird. I've really been enjoying this so far. I feel like I am at a point now where I'm ready to dive into the series again. So I'm really excited to see, and be able to appreciate Steven Erikson's writing a little bit more, and the beauty and the philosophical approach to it is way more at my purview now than it was before. So Gardens of the Moon has ended up becoming a new entry onto my monthly TBR. As we often do, we make TBR videos, and then we totally pile through and change entries. So that's probably going to happen. I think this is going to be an addition for May, but easy to read enough in terms of the length. And so I think I could probably fit this in my schedule. So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited to continue on the journey here of Gardens of the Moon. And I would love to know if you guys have read this series, if you've read this first book, what were your thoughts about it? Have you been wanting to read it? Is it something that's been on your bucket list, but you've been kind of afraid to start? Leave it in the comments, let me know, and let's start a dialogue, because I would love to kind of be able to alleviate any fears or trepidation you have about the series, similar to the fear that I had when I first started reading it. So I could hopefully provide some guidance and a friendly ear for that kind of stuff. So let me know in the comments. That was the next one. And this one I'd also talked about in my monthly TBR, May TBR video. And I'm going to link that up here so you can check it out if you'd like to. But this is Joe Abercrombie's The Heroes, the second standalone novel in the First Law universe. So this is book 5. I guess if you think of the trilogy as the first 3, then Best Served Cold was the first standalone. And this one is The Heroes, the second standalone. Now, 50, 60 pages into this one, I'm already loving it. It's referencing some stuff in Best Served Cold, and I'm seeing things from a different vantage point. It's bringing back some characters that I've missed from the original trilogy. I get the feeling I'm going to love this book. And it's interesting because, Malazan is such a all-encompassing, all-consuming type of read. The idea of trying to read 2 fantasy series at the same time that are, quite complex, this one more in character, this one more in world building, at least for now, it seems like a daunting task, but actually the style of writing is so vastly different. Like, this is a little bit more dark humor associated with the character and character-focused kind of stuff. This one has been more like a bleak world-building, very serious kind of start to this series. So it actually kind of plays off each other. It's kind of nice to be able to read them juxtapositioned against each other. So, who says you can't have it all, right? So I'm excited to kind of dive into The Heroes a little bit more this week. So let's get on with, what am I going to read this coming week? So as I mentioned, I'm going to finish Malazan, Gardens of the Moon. That's kind of my goal now. I'm going to try to finish also The Heroes, Joe Abercrombie standalone. And if I have time, I'm going to try to start diving into one of these books. I'm not quite sure which one. And if you have any thoughts, please leave it in the comments as well. But I had also mentioned these in my monthly TBR video. And that one is Children of Time, which is a buddy read I'm going to be reading with a filmmaker friend of mine. This one is by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And it talks about, I think, a couple of different species and how they evolve over time. I don't know much more about it than that, but I do go over, kind of the back flap and a little bit more info about this book in the monthly TBR video. So definitely check that out if you want more info on this one. So I'm kind of thinking between this one, The Blackest Heart by Brian Lee Durfee, which is quite a daunting read. So I'm trying to decide which one I want to do. And Last Days by Adam Neville, sort of like a British Stephen King, so kind of more in the horror space. So trying to decide which one of those I'll start, but I'm going to try to see if I can finish both Malazan and The Heroes, and then get to one of these, before the week is up, and I could maybe talk a little bit about my initial reaction. So let me know if you'd like to hear more about that. Let's get on to kind of the content I want to make next week. So I made a little bit of a list because I've been thinking about the kind of content that I'd want to make. So I recently connected with the booktuber Jess Bookgirl TV, it's her handle. And I'm going to leave that in the description here, but she just mentioned that she had done a Stephen King tag a little while back, and she would like me to join in, and this will be my first tag video. So I'm really excited to answer some questions about my love and our shared love of Stephen King. And yeah, I'm going to be posting that at some time this week. The next video I want to talk about is, over here, I don't know if you could see it, it's a little bit blurred out, but I have a bookshelf here that's entirely dedicated to Stephen King. And if you look on that second shelf there, there's the entire Dark Tower series. Now, I haven't seen any videos really talk about this as much, where they may talk about each book, or they may rank it within the larger Stephen King universe. But I would love to do a dedicated Dark Tower ranking, of the 7 main books and the 8th one, The Wind Through the Keyhole, which is kind of a side quest that came out in 2013. So I'd like to be able to rank those, talk a little bit about them in a spoiler-free manner, mind you, because I don't want to spoil anything for the people who are going to join in and, try to read these books. But, this series means so much to me. I think it changed my life when I first read it in 2016, 2017. No joke. It really made me think about life in a different way, and I think for the better. So I want to talk a little bit about what that series means to me, and then rank each book. So that's going to be another video I'm going to be working on, and I'll keep you posted when that all goes up. I'll make a community post about that. I also want to talk a little bit about a topic that's it means a lot to me. I'd kind of mentioned it a little bit in a book haul video I did, which is right up here. That, as book collectors, as book aficionados, we all really want to collect and read as many books as possible. We want to collect the best editions, the collector's editions, all this stuff. But, everybody's in a different financial situation. Everybody has a different, bookshelf situation, the amount of space they have in their place to put books and things like that. And I want this to be a video that kind of brings comfort to people that feel like, I have a case of FOMO. Everybody else has nicer books than I do, nicer bookshelves than I do. And so I wanted to provide some free or cheap resources that people could turn to in their local communities to find books, to kind of build out their collection and kind of share the wealth, and also donate books to people who are in need of finding new reads as well. So I want to kind of make that a very community-oriented approach that we can all adopt in our lives, to be able to read more books, collect more books, and do it in a way that feels right for our individual situation. So that's going to be the next video I do. The fourth video I want to do is probably going to be a shorter one, but I want to talk a little bit about the daily habit of reading. I have found that, life gets really busy. Book collecting gets very busy, book reading gets very busy, and trying to fit all these things into our daily life, it gets to be a little bit tricky. And, then reading slumps can happen and things like that. So how to figure out having a daily habit, and, how even reading 20 minutes a day can make a huge difference towards one's reading goals. So I want to talk a little bit about that and kind of make this a conversational thing. So let me know if any of these resonate. Leave it in the comments if you like these topics, if you prefer to hear more, topics visited on this channel. I also want to, in addition to talking about books and book adaptations and things like that, talk about kind of issues within the book community and how we can kind of rally behind those to create a very positive community here. So let me know what you think about that. But the final video will be yet another weekly update. So I'm going to keep doing these on Sunday mornings. They're going to come out at 8:15 a.m. And so I'm very excited to be able to post those as well. On the music front, I have been working on the soundtrack to a horror film called Dead Whisper, which is going to be released by Vertical Entertainment, and it will be out on July 9th. So I'm thinking about releasing the soundtrack on July 5th, just a few days before, so that previous Friday. It's going to come out on a Tuesday the 9th, so Friday the 5th, I think the soundtrack is going to come out. And so I'm kind of getting ready for that. I'm very excited about that. It's a lot of admin and publishing work in addition to paperwork and that kind of a thing, and starting to market the album. So I'm very excited about that process. I'll keep you all posted, here on the community posts and in future weekly updates as we get closer to the release. The second thing I've been doing, which has been really fun, is I think I mentioned in another weekly update that I've kind of started a production company with the filmmaker of Dead Whisper and the cinematographer, and we've been kind of looking at other projects to do, and the filmmaker's writing the script for the next horror film that I'm going to be scoring, but I'm also going to be co-producing it. So we've been kind of looking at casting, we've been looking at location scouting, and really excited about all that. So I'll keep you all posted about that as well. I've been also meeting with various studios about potential projects, but again, with the writer's strike and now the IATSE strike that not strike, but the IATSE negotiations that are happening right now and are scheduled to be done end of July, I believe. People are still kind of not wanting to jump into the water and into the deep end and greenlight production. So it's still a little bit slower going, but I think things are going to pick up in a couple months, which I'm very excited about. So, hey, at least that means some more time to read and to work on the next thing I'm going to be working on, which is I'm looking at collaborating with a couple of composers on some special book adaptation projects. And I'm going to give some, more details in future updates as they go. But, I think I mentioned in one of my updates that I had done a theme for the Lightbringer companion album that is the official adaptation of Lightbringer by Brent Weeks. It's basically an album for the book series. So I'd done the theme Lightbringer, which came out early last year, and I want to explore other series too. So I kind of want to write music in other worlds. I've done one for Wheel of Time. I've done one for the Dresden Files. I've done one now for Lightbringer, and I would like to see what other universes to explore. So let me know if any that you'd like to hear, and I can kind of start putting videos on a different playlist here, walking through the process of what it takes to read the book, ingest the characters, and create a theme that might be representative of that series, and kind of walk through that process from start to finish. So that's another segment I want to add on the channel. But let me know what you all think. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of conversational approach. And let me know what you think about this weekly update. What would you prefer to see differently in future weekly updates? This is a new channel, about 3 weeks old. I have 24 subscribers now, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, every subscriber, it just means so much to me that people want to tune in. There are a lot of great Booktube channels out there, and I watch a bunch myself. So the fact that you all want to check out my little corner of YouTube and Booktube and want to check out this video means the world to me. So thanks for subscribing. Please share with your friends, and let's create a positive community together. Take care. See you next week.